The Yaqui tribe is one of the most important indigenous communities from our country. Perhaps the only tribe that the Mexican state has restored their territorial and water use rights owed to its tenacity and fighting spirit for its land and natural resources being the most important. The Yaqui River water fight. In 1940, the then President, Lázaro Cárdenas del Rio, acknowledged the Yaqui Indians' rights by a presidential decree that restored them their water and land so they could live on a free and pacific way. President Cárdenas' decree sets the territory and water limits for the tribe, so it could be self-sufficient and independent, and that could also be self-governed by their own customs and traditions, being their main economic activities agriculture, fisheries and livestock plus the natural resources general use. Furthermore, the decree stipulates that the Yaqui River water allocation and use are also for the south of Sonora food production. The purpose of this decree was to set the Yaqui Indians' land limits, provide them water, and allow to what today is the Yaqui Nation and its inhabitants to perform its productive activities, their religious customs and traditions, in a respectful environment towards that indigenous tribe which the Rio Yaqui is considered the fountain of life that provides all its Yoreme people, in which the sun and the moon deities, through their day and night, gave life to the first Yaqui Indian. Nowadays, the tribe receives the Yaqui River waters which, by the semi-desertic weather, has diminished its runoffs throughout the last 2 decades, receiving the service by the currently existing interconnection system of 3 great dams and channels network that allows the water landing on a controlled way to the 8 tribe towns that integrate the Yaqui Nation. With this water, the Yaqui tribe has the irrigation rights for 25,000 hectares that comprise its agricultural zone. Same that up to date is being affected in one of the land's area by salinity and low productivity on these grounds. Besides the lack of the river's ecological flow that CONAGUA, the Federal Water Authority, has not respected and has affected severely the flora and fauna on the Yaqui Indians' grounds. It adds to it the lack of basic drinking water services that puts at risk the own tribe's extinction given the high temperatures during summer on this region. However, the biggest threat that infringes upon the tribe's survival arrived back in 2010 during the Sonora State Administration, directed by Governor Guillermo Padres Elias, who proposed to perform a statewide project that was called Sonora Sea, with the support of the then President Felipe Calderón Hinojosa. Such project was based on the false premise that the Yaqui Indians and the Yaqui Valley had a water surplus, when all the technical studies indicated that Sonora had a shortage in the resource availability. Sonora Sea included series of infrastructure projects throughout the state, which were not performed, given the fact they were just used as a political campaign and propaganda to cover up the real purpose that the back-then government had to build what we today know as the Independencia aqueduct, that currently directs water from the Plutarco Elias Cales El Novillo Dam to the city of Hermosillo in an illegal manner, affecting directly the Yaqui tribe rights. This infrastructure project was done violating the rule of law and clearly demonstrating an excessive abuse of power by the state and federal authorities that joined forces for this absolutely illegal project construction that today affects the Yaqui tribe in the south of Sonora, having as a consequence of a malevolent and unfair persecution to the tribe members after they have executed their defense. Given this tremendous threat, the Rio Yaqui Basin, the tribe and the Yaqui Valley producers and civilian population organizations created an alliance and a pact signed on May 5 of 2010, which was named Rio Yaqui Pact. On this document, the commitment is set to defend jointly the Lázaro Cárdenas decree, so the use and destination for these waters shall not divert towards other uses or locations, including the state's capital, which is a city located in the diverse Rio Sonora Basin. And according to the National Waters Law, Hermosillo City must supply itself with water coming from its own hydrological basin. Although The Rio Sonora waters are being monopolized by a small economic power group that exploits the underground waters through an excessive extraction with wells, and also to the surface waters that are kept into great reservoirs for livestock use, located in the river upper basin, denying the water rights to the population as it is said in the law, and without any order set by the competent legal authorities such as Conagua and Semarnat. These grand investors are the same people that have compromised the lands for property development's construction, and this is where they are heading to take the water that corresponds to the tribe, and are also the ones that have monopolized the agricultural wells and the livestock ranches. It is for that reason that the Yaqui tribe and the Yaqui Valley producers made a number of legal lawsuits and marches against this project. These lawsuits are against the public bid, the construction and the operating of the aqueduct, and also against the water entitlements assigned that the riverside towns from the Rio Yaqui have transferred. It should be noted that the Yaqui tribe presented 2 legal protections against the environmental impact manifest granted by the Environmental and Natural Resources Department Semarnat, as well as the deeds for water allocation that the National Water Commission Conagua granted to the State Water Commission to divert these water volumes to the city of Hermosillo, affecting the Yaqui tribe in the south of Sonora. With these actions, these legal protections that have been granted by the Supreme Court, which is the federal one, allow to maintain the Yaqui River water defense and give the opportunity to dismantle the Independencia aqueduct, established that once has demonstrated the irreparable damages to the tribe. The aqueduct must be cancelled even before the legal query. The research projects were in charge of the National Institute of Anthropology (INA), and on a broad technical and scientific examination, this institute demonstrated such irreparable damages. Nonetheless, such document has a legal effect. At this moment, the responsible authorities are still disregarding these Supreme Court observations. Furthermore, the federal government has various pending debts with the tribe, as nowadays the Yaqui town's situation is precarious by not having the basic public services. Among them, the most important that is the drinking water service, and health, security and education services, plus programs that foster a real development for the tribe and its inhabitants that now live on a high exclusion, and by justice, must be resolved. This is another reason which it is unfair to extract water for the Yaqui River to be delivered to other regions with profit purposes of a few, and for the benefit of whom have the economic and political power from the city of Hermosillo, without having the Yaqui tribe basic problems resolution, mainly with the drinking water in quality and quantity, and also affecting all the productive activities from the south of Sonora. Besides all these injustices, in 2019, the same departments that granted permits for the illegal Independencia aqueduct construction once again authorize complementary projects which intend to blatantly extract more of the Yaqui River waters through a project before known as the North Waterline. Is now called stylishly Acuaférico, composition of water and urban fringe words in Spanish, which is an actual extension of the same aqueduct that will duplicate the water extractions for a major city growth and development, and not for a real in-need situation at the expense of the other state districts. Plus, still not having either Conagua, Semarnat nor Profepa authorities to comply with a court order on the 2 sentences that protect the tribe rights, therefore, is a must to give back its water urgently and without any postponements. Likewise, there are 275 water intakes installed along the aqueduct on each 500 meters. That represents a major threat, given the fact that with these valves is possible to increase the extraction up to 300 million cubic meters and establish 30,000 high-value agricultural crops hectares on virgin grounds, exceeding the water amount and lands that the Yaqui tribe exploits currently. All this at the expense of these communities, which the government has the enormous justice debt to provide the Yaqui inhabitants better living conditions and development. It is known off the record that is intended on a hidden way to install an additional pipe from the aqueduct to extract even more water, since it has been seen that doing the projects trampling on the rule of law is more profitable than following up the normal legal channels, because it is considered as res judicata without caring of whom is affected. It is unacceptable that these same federal departments, which nowadays participate in the called justice plan implemented by the president for the Yaqui communities, intend to hide with these activities the misdeeds that have been promoting, with the authorization of these infrastructure projects that affect directly the Yaqui tribe. Actions that distract the own Yaqui tribe from the Indians' water inquiries. Because of this, now more than ever it must continue to perform legal actions, marches and alliances to defend with justice what corresponds to us, and the Yaqui River water shall continue giving life to the Yaqui tribe in the south of the state according to the National Waters Law, and as established on the Lázaro Cárdenas Decree. It is a duty to continue with our waters defense actions. We cannot afford that they are affecting our rights, so we are going to continue our fight to the very end, as our forefathers have done it, and as our future generations will do. The President of Mexico has implemented in the Yaqui communities justice plan to enforce their rights, which was signed jointly with the traditional Yaqui authorities on August 6, 2020, so justice shall be pursued for the Yaqui nation. However, Conagua and Semirnat have been unclear on their way of acting, since they authorized illegally the called aquaférico that attempts to extract more water from the Rio Yaqui watershed. For just building a new city in Hermosillo, with the only aim to do business outside the law, and to be with further and further wealth at the expense of thousands of families in need and the south of Sonora inhabitants. It is enough with the corruption once and for all. It must be respected what is established on the Lázaro Cárdenas Decree, and it must be respected the Yaqui tribe from Sonora, cradle of the north of Mexico civilization. No to the Yaqui River Basin dispossession. No to the Independencia aqueduct and its aquaférico. No to the politician and economic interests from the north of Sonora chieftains. Yes to the Yaqui tribe water rights. Yes to the water rights according to law and the rule of law. Water is the source of life, and if necessary, we will defend thoroughly life in our Yaqui nation nature.